His Excellency Ato Daniel from the Ethiopian Investment Commission, His Excellency Ambassador Enoch Tefera, Ato Ibret from the Investor Association in Awassa Industrial Park, one of the largest industrial parks for textile production in Ethiopia, and Ato Eyob Bekele from Desta Garment, which is quite a large company, over, I think, 2,000 employees, and recently expanding in Ethiopia. So I think what we'll do is maybe to start with some key figures and key presentation over Ethiopia investment, to have a landscape by Ato Daniel from the Ethiopia Investment Commission. And then maybe I'll do my best to facilitate a discussion between some key panelists around the table that could give their perspective over Ethiopia, what is the situation now, and what is the potential in terms of production capacities. So please, Ato Daniel, if you can come and give your presentation, your keynote. Thank you very much.
Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants of the Text Fair, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning and greetings from the Ethiopian Investment Commission and the Ministry of Industry of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia. Please allow me to present our earnest gratitude to organizers of the forum for successfully reinitiating this event. Ethiopia is very pleased and takes greater pride participating in the Text World Paris 2022 proceedings. Text World is today one of the flagship forums for global industry leaders, promoters, buyers, decision makers, and regulators in textile, apparel, and the fashion supply chain. We believe that Ethiopia's participation in this business and inspirational platform is yet another solid demonstration of the fact that steadily the country is securing a firm spot in the textile apparel industry as a sourcing hub in Africa. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as we anticipate to witness that this year's Text World Fair will continue on a strong historical trajectory of a vision that leads to fostering a new investment and sourcing business networking, allow me please to drop a few words about the great opportunities availed in Ethiopia in the textile and apparel sector investment and sourcing. In the past decade, Ethiopia has promoted industrialization as crucial pillar of its development strategy. Ethiopia's Vision 2025, which aims to make the country a leading light manufacturing hub in Africa by 2025, has identified the textile and apparel sector among its top priorities. In this tune, Ethiopia has invested on policies that promote investment and improve the business climate. Ethiopia has also focused on financing infrastructure, including world-class industrial parks, to accelerate plug-and-play manufacturing investments. More than 16 public and 6 private industrial parks have already been developed and become operational, many of which are dedicated for the textile and apparel sector, have international standard infrastructure and safety facilities, and produce a low carbon footprint. The Ethiopian Investment Commission also renders a holistic one-stop investment facilitation and aftercare service to all foreign investors, and jointly works with the Ministry of Industry to simplify investment and business procedures and remove binding constraints. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, as a result of our highly focused strategy and support system, Ethiopia's textile and garment industry is witnessing rapid growth. The total number of domestic and multinational firms engaged in the production of textile and apparel for domestic and global markets has shown significant growth in a short period of time. Today, the textile and garment sector are pivotal to our export growth, foreign earnings, and investment. The entire sector represents more than 100,000 jobs, 100 million euros of investment, and an export increase of 260% in value in 10 years. As a country, the, the deployment of focused strategy also means that in the recent years, Ethiopia has evolved into a sourcing destination for textile and apparel by attracting significant foreign direct investment in the sector. A pointer, the Hawassa Eco-Industrial Park developed in a collaboration with investors, group clusters around PVH has already attracted several international investors, including PVH Corp, owned by the Calvin Klein and Tommy Hilfiger brands, as well as Indian denim giant Arvind, Chinese fabric mill Wishi, Hong Kong garment company Epic, the British Hela Clothing Group, South Korea's Shinta's Ethiopie garment, and India's JJ textile and garment. In parallel, we are also strengthening and proactively working on partnership with a network of global buyers, brands, retailers, and suppliers to build a $30 billion textile and apparel export industry by 2030. All these initiatives fairly reaffirm Ethiopia's vision to become among the global hubs of apparel and textile production and sourcings. In fact, we believe that Ethiopia has acquired a favorable position in the global value chain, and we aim at preserving it. But we also understand that this could be realized only with greater focus, commitment, and hard work. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, some of the challenges affecting our global value chain stand, but we remain seized with the matters. We continuously endeavor to understand trends, address constraints, and capitalize on opportunities. While Ethiopia's tax-free access to US market under AGOA has been provisionally frozen since January 2020, the government of Ethiopia is working round the clock with the US government and its Trade Representative Bureau to review new developments in Ethiopia and retract the suspension. We are also fast-tracking our capability to meaningfully penetrate European market under the Everything But Arms scheme. Our participation in the Text World exhibition is one of the concrete moves in this direction. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we recognize that the most recent trends in the global market, global garment sourcing show some repositioning. While it's evident that Asia, the traditional powerhouse of textile and garment manufacturing, will continue strong in the near future, and in this regard, Africa's share would likely remain meager. We have also noticed that buyers are looking for new sourcing locations for different reasons, including rising wage rates, labor disruption, unrest in sourcing locations, and increasing social and environmental costs. As many global sourcing companies and retailers plan or have already started diversifying their country source of supply footprint, Ethiopia is open and working diligently to pursue a stronger relation with several buyers in the EU and the US to significantly increase their share of purchases from Ethiopia. Over the longer haul, we are also targeting larger US and European buyers who can attract manufacturers to Ethiopia, since such buyers possess the capacity of drawing garment manufacturers into a new investment market. Currently, Ethiopia is a small player in global sourcing, but it has budding potential and the global trends are in its favor. Ethiopia is attractive because of its market access to developed economies, its geographical position for inputs and export, and it's ready to operate industrial parks, infrastructure, that enjoys lengthy tax holidays and special access to international inputs. These factors have and will increasingly firm Ethiopia's position as the next investment destination for light manufacturing enterprises and as a product sourcing country. In this light, we humbly invite buyers, sourcing agencies, retailers, industry stakeholders, and investors attending this flagship event to engage with our delegation in through consultations and individual meetings and learn firsthand the huge business and investment opportunities availed in Ethiopia in the textile and apparel sector. Please rest assured that our delegation takes immense pleasure in offering data and practical information on any matter of interest and commits to engage in necessarily follow-ups. Ethiopia is truly open for investment and business. Please use the Text World Paris 2022 Forum as your transactional platform and landing strip for business partnership and investment in Ethiopia. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ato Daniel, for this speech. So it is true that Ethiopia has a lot to do with the EU market. If I remember, the current rate of export for 2021 was 30 millions only, over billions over exports in Europe. And Ethiopia production capacities are growing thanks to a long-term industrial policy from the Ethiopian state. And this is where perhaps His Excellency Ato Tale can give us a few words about where we are, what are the main direction for the Ethiopian state, the Ethiopian government, where they would like to do so. So if you please, His Excellency, to give a few words, and maybe after I will pass the words to His Excellency Ato Enoch Tefera for the context of the country. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. My colleagues, Daniel, make clear presentation. So as Ethiopian's government, as we know, Ethiopia is the agrarian country, but we are planning to transform to the industrial country. So in the coming 10 years, Ethiopia is planning to make a structural change from the agriculture to the industrial lead sectors, especially as the manufacturing sectors. Our industry GDP share is very low. It's around the 6.8, so it's not big. But within the coming 10 years, Ethiopia is planning to the GDP share of the manufacturing sector to the 70.8%. 70.8%. That's only for the manufacturing sector. There is the mining, also there is the ICT sectors. So when we're planning after the 10 years, the industrial sectors total share may be the 38%. 38%. The agriculture, it's come to the second one, around the 32%. So Ethiopia have a different advantage to become the industrial hub of African. We are working hard on it. Also, we are revising our industrial policy. There is a different challenge. So to foster our industrializations, we are working on the policy directives. So we are identifying the challenge and the opportunity. The opportunity we have, there is a challenge and the hurdles we have to overcome and solve that challenge through the policy directive. The government also planning to become the prosperity center for African in the coming 10 years. We are at the government of Ethiopia planning to become the leading prosperity country from the African. So to achieve that, the government are working to reform all sectors. There is a reform in the agricultural side. There is a reform in industrial side. Also, there is reform in all sectors. So through reform and a policy, we can achieve our goals. So there is also advantage in that there is a different incentive from the government side that's given for the industrialists, for the new investors. Also there is the labor force. We are the populous country from Africa. We are second populous country next to Nigeria. So most of our population they are young, so they are skilled. Most of them are graduated from university. So with giving them the minimum training, they become the labor force for the industry. That's big advantage. Also, Ethiopian Airlines is the leading transportation from the African. For the consecutive 5 years, get the number one award from the African. That's also another advantage for the world investors. Also, we are nearer to the Middle East. Only the Ethiopia Airlines fly from the Ethiopia to the Middle East country 3 hours. Also for Europe market, that's another advantage. There is also the cheap electricity. We are generating the big electric power from the Nile Dam that's going to finish within short period of time. Also, we have enough power for the industry side also. There is the cheap energy, so that's another advantage. So I hope we are going to achieve our plans. Also, we are improving at the government the easy business doing environment. So if someone wants to come and invest in Ethiopia, just every government office can welcome him easily, can communicate, and giving him information what is the potential we have as a country, and welcoming them. That's good. So also, I want to thank also those organizer of Text Wallet. It gives another advantage for our industry. The leading industry, they are coming here. They are around 9, so they have huge potential. Huge potential. They have big production capacity. They can produce as much as the buyers connect with them. So in these 2-3 days, the visitor can show the industry of Ethiopia potential and order, connect. Just this the few word what I want to say. Thank you very much for hearing. Let I give the chance for our ambassador.
Thank you, Excellency. Yes, we talk about the capacities of the exhibitors that are in the C60 zones of TextWorld. Thank you, Excellency, for flagging that. Like millions of pieces in terms of production capacities per year are offered there. And maybe I'll turn to His Excellency Enoch Tefera that can maybe give us a bit of carry on in the same line of the geopolitics of Ethiopia is important in the Horn for a long time. His role also to come to Europe in the future is marked with these 125 years of friendship between France and Ethiopia. Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you to the organizers, of course, TextWorld and Messe Frankfurt, and others who have made this important gathering, one of the most important in the apparel and textile industry, and Ethiopia being showcased as the prominent country, and we really appreciate it and that you've given us this honor. I think the State Minister, His Excellency Ato Tarrekany, has said many of the things that needed to be said. Ethiopia is a country that deserves to be known, because it is actually not known, whether it is here in France, in Europe, or by and large throughout the world. And the story of Ethiopia is more often not what is being sometimes told in the media. Ethiopia is a country of 115 million young people, a country which has grown double digits over the last 20 years, whose economy today is about $100 billion, which multiplied, as I said earlier, by tenfold over what it was 20 years ago. So if we continue with the current pace in the next 20 years, Ethiopia will be the size of any mid-sized European economy today. So Ethiopia really is the place to be, and in particular, it's a place to be for manufacturers, because the government policy, and as you know, policy is about making choices. It's about discriminating policy. And the choice that the government has made, one of the choices is to favorably discriminate in favor of manufacturing. Manufacturing is at the key of Ethiopia's endeavor to create a value addition economy. And in manufacturing, textile is one of the pillars. To that end, as was said by my colleague Ato Daniel, we have created both the infrastructure, invested in human resource capacity, and in creating the right policy incentives for manufacturers, both local and foreign, to come in. As was said, the industrial parks are state-of-the-art. If you have not visited them, if you have not seen them, I encourage you to read about them, and then if you can, to go visit and see them. These are industrial parks that are sourced with clean energy, purely renewables. These are industrial parks with the best waste management, certified. So in terms of sustainable production, you cannot find better places where you can come and produce with a plug and play, as was said. You will not find any other place, I think, in the world. In terms of human resources, it's a young population, a trainable population, and the government has been investing heavily in training its human resources over the last 20, 30 years. We have invested in high schools, invested in vocational schools, including to enable industrial parks and manufacturers to have the necessary and quality human resource at their disposal. It's also a very competitive environment in terms of the fiscal and other incentives that the government gives to those who come and produce locally and especially export. On top of that, as was said by His Excellency the Minister, in terms of logistics, which is also a very critical component for any manufacturer, we have a value, an advantage which I think nobody in Africa has, and very few actually have in the world. I was visiting one of the stands there. They were telling me that they are owned by Inditex. Very few people know that Inditex globally uses Ethiopian Airlines to distribute its goods globally, not just for the Ethiopian market, because it doesn't actually produce it. It doesn't bring products into it, but to source products either from Zaragoza and to send them to South America or even to the US, it uses Ethiopian Airlines. Ethiopian Airlines is one of the biggest cargo operators, air cargo operators in the world. We have in Addis Ababa the biggest cargo terminal, one of the biggest in the world, both dry and perishable cargo, with over 1 million ton capacity annual. The number of cargo aircraft is also, I think, over 30, by and large, wide body aircraft with 100 tons uplifting capacity. So Ethiopian Airlines, with the network we have, is also there to serve manufacturers. In addition, the government, as I said, was investing heavily in infrastructure, both road and rail, which connects us to the port of Djibouti. And that's also a very strong competitive advantage that we have. Now, as I said, the government has been spending a lot in terms of infrastructure, but with the new government in 2018 and the reform that we embarked upon in 2018, we have and we are working to make sure that the private sector has the right environment to thrive. We want the private sector to lead the development of the country. All the investments we have been making and are making in infrastructure, in human resource development, at the end of the day, those investments are meant for the private sectors to use these infrastructure and platforms to thrive. So, as the minister rightly pointed out, the ease of doing business is, we are investing to make sure that there's one-stop shop for investors, that those sectors that are priority to us receive the right kind of support and incentives, and we're seeing the effects of those efforts. Because contrary to what you may think and you may believe, Ethiopia is still today one of the biggest magnets of investment in Africa. In 2021, in a very challenging year for Ethiopia, we were by far the biggest investment destinations in East Africa. $4.3 billion of foreign direct investment poured into Ethiopia in 2021. The total for East Africa was $8 billion, a little bit $8 billion. These are figures of UNCTAD, the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development. In terms of exports, Ethiopian exports are growing at a rapid pace. Today, we are close to, if not over, $4 billion in exports. And this is a substantial growth over the last years where we were roughly under $3 billion. So all the parameters show that Ethiopia and Ethiopian economy is on the positive and right trajectory. We invite you to come in. We invite you to go and see for yourselves the potential of the country and what it can achieve for you. As it was said, also very critical, we have access to both the European market through the EBA, the everything but arms access that our European partners give us, and we had access to AGOA, which was suspended, but which we hope and believe it can be reinstated very quickly over the next couple of months. So with all these aspects, I think you should, and you have really no reason not to come and look at Ethiopia as a potential destination for your apparel and textile production. Thank you, Mr. MC.
Thank you, Excellency, for this background information and all the trajectory. Talking about growth, I think there is a very good example here at the table with the private sector, first with one of the largest industrial park in Ethiopia for Awasa, which has, if I remember, roughly 26,000 or 30,000 workers on site with a production capacity which represent roughly 70% of the exports. And I give the floor to Ato Ibret Lema, who is the head of the investors of the industrial parks. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just give you an introduction about the Hawassa Industrial Park. Hawassa Industrial Park is the largest plug-and-play industrial park in Ethiopia, and probably the largest, one of the largest in Africa. It's constructed on 140 hectare land. You have 52 sheds with 11,000 square meters and 5,500 square meters. We have about 30,000 employment in the park. So this is by far the largest, and there are 23 companies, most of them international. The biggest names in the garment manufacturing, as mentioned earlier, such as Arvind, such as TAL, such as Hela, such as Indochine, and also we have a few accessory manufacturers, interlining labels. We have textile fabric mill. We have also packaging manufacturing in this park. And what is very interesting is this park is a very, living witness of what Ethiopia can achieve in a very short years. I joined the Hawassa Industrial Park as an investor back in 2016. The idea then was PVH Corp, as an anchor investor, invited its major manufacturers back in 2016 to visit Africa, a few East African countries. And Ethiopia was one of them. And encouraged by the government's willingness then, and by the infrastructure, and by the potential Ethiopia has, many have joined in that park. As soon as we joined that park, we created the Hawassa Investors Association, the idea being to support the government, especially even on the construction of the industrial park. So this industrial park was constructed by consulting with the Ethiopian government and the private sector, such as big brands like PVH, where we have worked on compliance. right? So this industry park is a zero liquid discharge. It has, as you know, Ethiopia uses renewable energy, hydroelectricity, 100% hydroelectric. So we have seen the growth through this time. Back then, the industry, the garment industry is quite new for Ethiopia. So those manufacturers had to work on training the workers. Today, many of you, the manufacturer will tell you, we're above the average efficiency. Some are even telling us that they hit 100% efficiency. So this is compared to any leading manufacturers, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, etc., where we have those manufacturers in Ethiopia, they tell us we are by far the fastest growing in terms of efficiency. We still are growing, and we're really impressed by this improvement in the past 5 years. Today, we're also discovering other markets. Mostly in the past, we were focusing on the American market, mostly. By the way, all the manufacturers in the park are exporters. We're also diversifying at the moment. We have a few European buyers and mostly major American buyers. And today we're also diversifying in the, looking around Europe and other places. So I really encourage you, if you get the time, to come and see the Hawassa Industrial Park. This is one of the many government developed industrial parks, but by far the largest and the most sophisticated, and you'll be impressed what Ethiopia can achieve. It's tremendous capacity to train the trainable people they have. Very young population, very large workforce, and we've been working with the government closely on many of policy issues, developing policy that is favorable to the garment manufacturing and exporting sector. And we have developed a really sophisticated and very favorable customs policies, for example, on logistics, and we work really closely on many of the issues on the transportation of cargoes, transportation of our workers, and some of the human rights issues. So we have, as an investor association, we have a very close relationship, and I know this is the truth in many of industry parks in Ethiopia. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ato Ibret Lema from the Investor Association of Hawassa Industrial Park. And so we talked about these foreign investors exporting, but there is also other big companies outside Industrial Park, and this is where I will give the floor to Ato Bekele, Head CEO of Destar Garment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Probably I would like to touch on why made in Ethiopia. Why should we source in Ethiopia? Many points have been touched upon. Destar is made in Ethiopia by itself. It's a homegrown company, fully locally owned. We have achieved what everyone can achieve internationally. Sustainability is a goal that the government of Ethiopia has, from hydroelectric power, starting from zero liquid discharge. All of this applies. That Ethiopia complies with Europe in terms of sustainability. And we also, earlier as mentioned, that the young energy manpower is still available. And we have to remember that very soon, in the next 5 years, I believe, in 2027, Bangladesh will graduate as a duty-free for Europe. But Ethiopia still benefits from everything but harm. So as Bangladesh goes to the middle class, Ethiopia has this young population for the next 20, 30 years that could benefit Europe. And we believe that it is right now that European companies have to source and invest in Ethiopia, because as Bangladesh graduates from as a duty-free, it will be too late. So I believe you should source now. Destar, as fully homegrown company and focused on textile and garment and sustainability. And it is, as the government puts manufacturing as a priority, and we continue to expand, and we ask you to welcome now, before 2027. The more effort is being done now, the easier it gets as 2027 Bangladesh gets out of Europe.
Thank you very much, Ato Bekele from Destar Garment, who is exhibiting today at the stand C60 Made in Ethiopia. I will potentially close the discussion unless there are a few questions from the audience. Maybe we could take one or two right now. We have a few minutes left. So if there's anybody. Yes?
Thank you, Tex World, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. My question is for some of the brands, especially newer brands, can you talk about some of the challenges that they might face and how they can leverage existing resources to build the strength to then begin to develop or manufacture in Ethiopia? And I'm thinking newer brands versus like well-established industries and long-standing companies.
So, volunteers? Atoyo.
Yeah, the challenge on newer brand is basically mainly the full container load becomes a challenge. But as earlier excellencies have mentioned, Ethiopian Airlines plays a key role on smaller quantities that could be produced locally and can be air freighted, which could help to grow. And the companies that we have, yes, there are volume companies, based volume production based, but there are also smaller quantity based. And in that regard, the Ethiopian Airlines plays a key role in transporting and establishing.
Just one point also to mention on that, actually, in some emergency cases, Ethiopian Airlines has mobilized his support for exporters. So they've been on a fast track sometimes to export directly. That's what we know. Maybe Brett, if you want to add anything?
Yeah, just a very valid question. Concerning our industry park, we focus on large volumes. These are big manufacturers. But what is interesting is, right now, one of the challenges can be working for smaller sizes, readjusting the lines, right? So if you have a small quantity, changing styles, this requires certain time readjusting, right? This would have been difficult if we talk about our experience 3 years ago, even 2 years ago. Considering the Hawassa Industry Park, you have 30,000 workers, about 80, let's say 70% of them have worked in these manufacturing plants at least over a year. That means they have good experience. So quite a few of them can accommodate change of styles. Another interesting thing is the logistics challenge. In industrial parks, we do consolidate containers. So if the destination is to the US, to Europe, we also do consolidation. We have a container yard in the middle of the industry park where we can consolidate, or we can do milk run. Some manufacturers can do this. The airport was constructed actually in Hawassa. An international airport has been constructed following the development of the industry park. So we also have an airport near the industry park as well.
Thank you very much, Toi Bretlema. I think we'll have to close the panel discussion, but what we could say, do you have one comment, Skander? Okay.
Yeah, hello, good morning everybody, or good afternoon. On behalf of Messe Frankfurt and in charge of the African office, I would like to add on comment. There is a reason why we have a Tex World Addis Abeba. As you know, the Tex World is the biggest brand in the world today with a lot of exhibitions. And Addis Abeba and Cape Town in South Africa, they are the only places where we organize exhibitions within Africa. No other places are there so far as a Tex World hub. So there is a reason for that, because we believe in what's happening in the textile industry in Ethiopia, not only now, but also in the future. And therefore, we are happy to be there, and we thank for the government of Ethiopia for hosting us since 8 years, successful years, I would say. And these are the biggest show. Especially the one in Addis is the biggest event, where most of European and the US buyers go into source from Africa. So you will find not only Ethiopian, but you will also find other African manufacturers, etc. So you are welcomed. And when you are there, then you can see the industrial park, where we always organized tours free of charge to all these industrial parks, and you will be amazed what you see. Not only friendly people, but also real professional industrial park. So you're welcome.
Thank you, Skander. Yes, indeed, if you come to the fair show at the end of the year, you can also pay a visit to the different places, Productive Place, Desta, Hawassa, Adama Industrial Parks, Kombolcha, and so on and so forth. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Excellencies and dear gentlemen. We'll close this press panel discussion, but we'll stay open if you have further questions after to one of his dearest gentlemen sit here. Thank you very much again for your presence, and I wish you a very good fair. So please do not hesitate to come to the Ethiopia Pavilion. Thank you.